Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to HG Radio, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. Here is your co-founder and host, Kim Becker.
Hello, gorgeous. You were listening to Hello, Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. I'm your host, Kim Becker, once a hairdresser and a salon owner, now the founder of a nonprofit organization that coaches and trains women with cancer to help them smile when they look in the mirror. And if you ask me, I will tell you that I have the best job in the whole world. This episode is brought to you by Amplified Marketing Group. They specialize in affordable mobile solutions that will get you noticed and help you retain customers. Check them out at www.amplified.marketing. Our guest today is IZZY CHERONE. IZZY is your normal girl next door. She's somebody's daughter, wife, mother, nana, sister, and friend. She has no superpowers, no special training. Her extraordinary talents would be water skiing and eating potato chips. Real earth-shattering, right? She puts her pants on the same way that you do, one leg at a time. And sometimes she tries to put both of her legs in the same leg of her pants. She's locked her finger in the car, something that she strongly discourages you from trying. She forgets things, makes mistakes, and sometimes wonders just what makes her tick. Sound like anybody you can relate to? She has learned that being a participant is totally different than being a spectator. She has learned that obstacles are opportunities, and she has learned that everybody has opportunities, and learned that a bad hair day is better than a no hair day. IZZY lives by the rule that every day above ground is a good day. She has learned that there are only two things in the world that you can control: your attitude and your actions, and she's still learning things. In 1995, IZZY was diagnosed with breast cancer. In 2001, thyroid cancer. And 22 years later, she thought she was golden. But remember, there are only two things that she can control. In 2017, IZZY was diagnosed with breast cancer a second time. She has now had more parts recalled than Ford, and a Ford gives replacement parts. So how do you face your opportunities? First and foremost, cancer, or whatever opportunity you are facing, may be bigger than her, but not her God. Her God is bigger than cancer, and attitude is everything, and avoid negative people. She knows that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but gosh darn it, some days it's a struggle just finding that tunnel. IZZY wants to be the one to take your hand, hold that flashlight for you, and she will help you find that light. Hi, IZZY, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Kim. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful biography. I could not have described you any better myself. Like that, just totally, you are a picture of optimism to me. Always.
I am.
Always, always.
Yes, I am. I'm a glass full kind of a girl. Not half, it's full.
That's right. All the time. All the time.
Right.
So I always like to know when I have somebody on that has a cancer diagnosis, I always like to find out like how you discovered the cancer, because I feel like if we can share that story with others, that there may be somebody out there that may be disregarding something, but it may help them take the next step to have that checked out. So tell me, how did you find out that you had breast cancer the first time?
This was really very odd. I was in a women's Bible study group, and we were working on turning everything over to God, everything, instead of, I'll take this, you take that. It was my very first month of doing this. I pray about my hair, so I'd have a good hair day. I had come home one day and I was taking out my contacts, and there was this little thought in my head that said, there's a lump. I was too young. I wasn't doing self-exams because I was young. I went right to the lump, and I thought, it's not real big, but I know that's not something that should be there. So I called my doctor, my gynecologist. They got me in. They said, let's do a biopsy. Everything went really quick. They wanted to do a mammogram. Now, you've seen me. There's not a lot to do a mammogram with. So I thought, if there's a lump there, they certainly should be able to find it. Well, mammogram showed nothing. And they said, they called my doctor. He said, well, let's do an ultrasound just to be sure. So they did an ultrasound, and they found this teeny tiny little lump. And they said, well, we don't think it's anything. It's small. Let's do a biopsy. Okay, so we go in for the biopsy, to which I took my curling iron. They did the biopsy, and they go, oh, we don't think it's anything, but, we'll check it out. Well, before I left the hospital, they said, it's not good. And I go, oh, how did we go from it's not anything to it's not good? but I was fortunate. I had a doctor who was on top of things, and there wasn't a lot of time in between. It went quick.
So did you do a mastectomy then? Or did
No.
you just do,
Lumpectomy.
lumpectomy and then chemo and radiation?
Right.
So did they think that the thyroid cancer diagnosis was related to the breast cancer, or was that something different?
At the time, they said it was totally unrelated, totally different type of cancer. But as you get older and you get smarter, and there's more information available, and you have to watch what you read. There are things out there now that say the thyroid cancer could have been caused by the treatment they used at that time to treat the breast cancer.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
But at the time, they swore the two were totally unrelated, and I didn't care whether it was related or not. I wasn't happy to have a second diagnosis.
Sure. So fast forward then to 2017. So then how did you find out about that breast cancer diagnosis?
Because I'm a good girl and I do what my doctor tells me. I don't like having mammograms. I don't like spending money. However, because I trust my doctor, they said, we're going to do a mammogram. So this time it showed. And they said it's a different type of cancer, same breasts. So then they did a skin sparing mastectomy with reconstruction.
And you didn't have to do anything else? Did you have to do chemo or anything else during that one?
No chemo, no radiation, just the surgery. And they were confident that we're good.
And so how often do you have to be checked now?
Now I'm going the COVID has changed things just a little bit. I should be going every 6 months. But fortunately, because I'm not one of the people who are at a greater risk or in dire need for my physician, I'm going like when they tell me to come back.
Okay.
It was every 6 months.
And so what do you do to tell yourself? I mean, I can imagine after having, if I were in your shoes and I had been diagnosed with cancer 3 different times, what do you do to tell yourself to quiet your mind? Because I would imagine if I were in your shoes, any little something that would be different, out of the ordinary, out of the norm, like that would be where my head would go first. Oh my gosh, that must be cancer. Oh my gosh, how do you get in there and continue to talk yourself up and talk yourself out of those nasty thoughts?
My diagnosis came at the best possible time in my life. Had it come any sooner, I used to be the world's biggest worrywart. I would stress about anything. Being that I was going through my Bible study about turning everything over to God, I said, okay, I can't change this. Mm-hmm. I can't spend the rest of my life worrying, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it through chemo? Am I going to make it through radiation? Is it going to come back? I thought I have to totally trust my Heavenly Father. And so that is what I did. Now, it's not easy every day to wake up and go, I'm trusting you. There are days you talk to God and you go, help me, let me see. But I thought I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. We've got crazies out there in the world, and life is too short. I have to enjoy every day. And I can't if I'm worrying, is it going to come back tomorrow? Is it going to come back tomorrow? And it's hard. There's a lot of ladies I meet out there that they do live in fear. And I have seen the fear eat them alive, make them physically sick because they are that nervous. And a lot of them don't have a good support group. And you didn't come along on the market, when I was first diagnosed, Hello Gorgeous didn't exist.
Right.
There weren't a lot of, where do women go to get that? You expect it from your family and the people who love you. Now, it doesn't always come from there. But when a complete stranger like Kim Becker walks out of the middle of nowhere and shows up and makes you feel like a million, that helps. But you weren't around back then.
Not the first time.
No.
Or the second time. I was there for the third one.
Yes, you were. And I am very grateful for that.
So, I'm a big one for being your own advocate, asking questions when you're talking to the doctors. But what's the importance of actually trusting your doctor or your doctors?
Well, you are scared and you go to a doctor. If you don't trust him, and people kept telling me, oh, get a second opinion, go here, go there. How many doctors do you go to before you hear what you want to hear? Mm-hmm. So you have to trust your doctor and have that relationship where you feel comfortable enough to do what he recommends. And I believe in asking questions. I actually had, my oncologist ironically died of cancer, so I had to search for a new one. And the one doctor had said to me, "You ask too many questions." And I thought, oh my, I thought that's what the doctor was for. You ask questions and don't feel bad that it's a stupid question. It's hard to do what they tell you to do if you don't trust them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you have to, you have to remember, I think, as a patient, that you're paying him. He's there to serve you. You're not there to serve him. And so he needs to be in that room as long as you feel that he needs to be there so that your questions get answered. Now, you can't keep asking the same question over and over again to elicit a different response, because that's not going to happen. But at least if you can understand exactly what he's trying to tell you, I think that's his job as a medical professional, is to be there to answer those questions for you.
Right, and to lay out what your options are. And I was fortunate enough that I could ask my very first oncologist. He explained all the options, and then I have a horrible time making decisions. I can't decide what shoes to wear every day. I asked him, all right, as a professional, as my physician, what do you recommend in my best interest? And he told me, why. But he said, the decision is yours.
Mm-hmm. But it's still hard. It's hard to weigh those, and you know what? You don't know what you don't know. You could make, right. But years ago, Mike and I had moved to Kansas City for a business opportunity, and it turned out badly. And we were only there for about 6 months, but I remember the people that were there that owned that company, and that was my one takeaway, is that you make a decision. And if it's not the right decision, then you make another decision. You're not necessarily stuck with that particular decision forever. If you make that decision, but I read a book called Fear is Not the Boss of You, and it said you have to make a decision. The world is filled with too many indecisive flat squirrels. Right? Because you watch the squirrel, they go one way and then they can't decide, and then they go the other way, and then they turn around and go there, and in the middle of the intersection where they couldn't decide which way to go, they end up getting hit by a car. So I think it is. I'm sure that a lot of people struggle with that too. It's hard to make a decision when you don't know. Like if you had a crystal ball and you could see that by making this decision, this was going to turn out this way, but you can't do that. So I think it's about education, right? I think it's about asking the questions, getting as much knowledge as you can, because knowledge is power, and then have an educated decision, not just well, he said I need to have this, and so I need to have it. I think it is about asking those questions.
Right. Don't blindly go forward. We are all human.
That's right.
Just because you can't make a decision stupidly, you need to, again, be educated when they recommend something.
Well, and how do you handle like an insensitive medical professional?
And I've had many of those. I only go to a doctor when they deem it necessary. And I had walked into a doctor's office, not because I had nothing else to do, and I was greeted by a gal at the desk that very rudely said, "Do you realize you have to have a referral to be here?" And I thought, "Ooh, okay, yes, and I do have an appointment." Then when I get in to see the doctor, he says, "You cancer patients are all alike. Every little bump, swelling, whatever you think is cancer." And he's going on, and I'm thinking, the only reason I'm here is because my oncologist thought I should be. So I let him do all his thing. I didn't say anything to him in the room because I didn't want to have to make any apologies. I went home and I wrote a letter. I very nicely, it took me a while because I had to, I can be a little wordy sometimes. I had to shorten it to something he could read in one evening. I had a phone call from him the next day apologizing.
Really?
When I was doing radiation, I bumped into an insensitive person. And me, again, being the optimist, I picked the first appointment of the day so that I could be done and have it over with. And every day when I went in, I bumped into, I didn't realize at the time that it was one of the big wigs of the office.
Okay.
So when I went to